Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Course Studio. Welcome to the show. So on this episode, I'm going to take you through the tiers for the Precon commanders from Lord of the Rings. Yeah, I had to split this into 2 episodes because there are 85 main set commanders and 36 Precon commanders, so it got to be quite a bit. I mean, 85 was absurd. If you haven't seen the episode, make sure you check it out. 36 is still a ton. Let's jump into it again. S tier is going to be the best tier. D tier is the worst tier. This is going to be within the vacuum of the Precon, so these commanders are only in comparison to each other. Now let's jump into it, starting off with, well, whatever order this site has it in. Eowyn, Shield Maiden, a 5/4 human knight that costs 2 blue, red, white with first strike. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if another human enters the battlefield under your control this turn, create 2/2/2 red human knight creature tokens to trample and haste. Then if you control 6 or more humans, draw a card. Okay, so this is pretty absurd. This is taking human tribal to a whole new level. And my goodness, the amount of token generation that this can give you is incredible. I mean, again, you just have a single human. It doesn't specify non-token, right? It doesn't say non-token human. There are plenty of ways to make token humans. There are also a lot of great humans out there, including great human tribal pieces as well. You play those, all of a sudden, you get 4 power across 2 bodies with trample and haste that can swing right away. And also, hey, you're going to very quickly and very easily be able to get to 6 humans, so you can also get card advantage off of this as well. This is an absurd commander, one that is fantastic, is protected in combat as well with that first strike, which is quite nice. Yeah, human tribal, 3 color, yeah, card advantage, go wide. This can do a lot of great things, so I think this is a really good start. Eowyn, Shield Maiden, I think that you are a very powerful commander. I don't think you're quite S tier, but because there's a couple of commanders, or maybe at least a commander I have in mind that might be above you in this set. And I will mention that I might move these as I go along. I have not actually pre-done a ranking for these. I kind of want to do these on the fly and just, yeah, comment below with your thoughts on all of these and where I place them. And of course, my opinions might differ than, on yours, and then that's okay. You might think something's an A and something's a B or a C or whatever. It's great. Comment below. All right, here we go. Let's move on to the next one. We've got the Gaffer, a 2/3 Halfling Peasant for 2 and a white. At the beginning of each end step, if you gain 3 or more life, this turn, draw a card. Just what the doctor ordered for mono white. I mean, this is going to be great in the 99 of a lot of mono white decks out there that can gain a lot of life. This has the potential to, again, draw you 1 card with each trip around the table for every single player. So, yeah, basically draw 4 cards with each trip around the table. Pretty fantastic. And yeah, you need to get some setup, but it doesn't take that much setup really in mono white to be able to gain 3 life on every single turn. So yeah, you are benefited finally for actually gaining life, which is great. As a commander, yeah, this can be quite potent as well. Has the potential to make blue commanders out there pretty jealous of the amount of card advantage that you can actually get out of this one. That being said, outside of card advantage, I mean, yeah, you are getting life at the same time. You do need some setup to actually really do things with this commander. I think that you are a good commander. You are a solid commander. Again, mono white still is a bit disadvantaged compared to other colors when it comes to its resources, but yeah, it is starting to get more and more and more pieces. The Gaffer, I'm going to throw you up in the B tier for now. Moving on. We've got Gilbane, and my apologies if I mispronounce anything, and I definitely will. We got a 2/3 human noble for 2 and a white. Pay 2, tap, exile a target creature you control. You may return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. If you don't, at the beginning of the next 10 step, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control, a vigilance counter and a lifelink counter on it. So this is a commander that, kind of like Rune, can really utilize blinking and, kind of like ETB madness. I mean, not madness, you're not utilizing madness, but yeah, just ETB effects left and right. And also, you can decide, you know what, if I don't need that creature back right away, I can delay that and say, you know what, let's just get that back at the end step, and we're going to get a vigilance counter and a lifelink counter on it. This is, pretty impactful, obviously, being able to give those creatures vigilance and lifelink. Also, it's a good way to say, well, I don't want that creature to come back because someone's casting a Wrath right now, and it's going to get taken out if I bring it right back. So this can be a good way to say, you know what, I'll save my key creature, or obviously I'll utilize ETBs. This one, again, is a pretty... Oh, nope, sorry, Gaffer, we came right back to you. This one is a pretty solid commander when it comes to that. Again, you are in mono white. I think overall, probably a B tier commander, only access to 1 color. You do have some good ETBs you can still take advantage of, though. Next up, Gwai here? That is so probably wrong. I'm sorry. Greatest of the Eagles, a 5/5 bird noble with flying for 5 mana in total. Whenever it attacks, target attack creature gains flying until end of turn. Beginning of each end step, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, you get a 3/3 white bird creature token with flying, and whenever this creature attacks, target attacking creature gains flying until end of turn. So, kind of like go wide flyer tribal, but yeah, benefiting from life gain with the Gaffer, kind of same thing. This one, yeah, I mean, it does cost a little more than Gaffer. 5 mana is not, exactly a cheap commander. And the impact is decent. Again, yeah, you can make a lot of tokens if you are set up properly. It does take a good amount of setup to actually get there. This is one of those commanders I think I mentioned on the other episode, on the other tier episode, essentially. There's a lot of commanders, essentially, when you've got so many that you have, like, okay, this is like a B-, C+ kind of commander, in my opinion. I think, and maybe it's just because I already have a couple Bs in there. And the Gaffer, I think, is above this, again, because card advantage probably trumps just making 3/3, though they are flyers. Oh, okay, you know what? We're going to throw you up there with the Gaffer in the B tier. I think that's probably a mistake. Probably, again, like a B-. If I really had to kind of put it out there, a B-. But, again, we only have 5 tiers. You need to put them where they are. Might regret it later when the C tier has nothing in it, which was the exact opposite problem with the other one. All right, moving on. We've got a partner commander with Frodo, Adventurous Hobbit, and Sam Loyal Tenant, which we'll get to here in a second. A 1/3 Halfling Scout for 2 mana with Vigilance. Whenever it attacks, if you gain 3 more life this turn, the ring tempts you. Then if Frodo is your ring bearer and the ring has tempted you 2 more times, this game, draw a card. So, essentially, yeah, you do, or you're encouraged to attack with this one. Again, it does have Vigilance. Again, that 3 or more life gain, that is just a theme in this set, apparently. But once you do that, you do have some potential card advantage as long as Frodo is your ring bearer and you've been tempted enough times. So that is nice. Let's move on to Sam real quick. Loyal Attendant in Selesnya. So overall, you've got Abzan, 3 colors, right? 2/4 Halfling Peasant for 3 mana in total. Partners, obviously, at the beginning of your combat on your turn, create a food token. Activate it as a food control. You control cost 1 to activate. Essentially, yeah, there's your 3, right? You've got the food tokens. You can gain 3 with that. And then you can assume that you are actually going to be tempted by the ring with Frodo. Decent. I mean, there's a decent amount of card advantage with that. You need ways to protect Frodo, ways to get Frodo through. The ring, it being the ring bearer, actually does kind of protect in that way. It kind of basically has, Skulk. It can't be blocked by bigger creatures. It's got some other effects as well that can be very beneficial. Overall, again, you are in 3 colors. It's pretty solid. It's, again, I don't think anything really to write home about. But yeah, there is a decent amount of benefits from it. I think overall, gosh, I'm probably going to regret this because, yeah, the bird is going to be above this. But actually, I am going to put this partner combination actually in the C tier. It's got some benefits to it, but yeah, creating a food token each combat, yeah, and your foods cost 1 less to activate, yeah, and then sure, you get some benefits out of Frodo attacking. Yeah, we're just going to go with that. Moving on. We've got Denethor Stone Seer, a 1/3 human noble for 1 in a blue. Enters the battlefield, scry 2. Pay 3 in a red, tap, sacrifice. Target player becomes a monarch. Denethor deals 3 damage to any target. This one is interesting. It is a, Izzet commander that isn't going to stick around for long, most likely. I mean, ETB scry 2, that's not bad. That isn't card advantage, but it is card selection, which can be nice, although you can turn it into card advantage in some ways. That being said, yeah, you got to actually pay mana to get rid of this. Lightning bolt something, essentially, and give someone the Monarch, which will probably be you. That being said, other than that, this commander really doesn't do anything. I mean, introducing the Monarch is nice, but it's really, I mean, again, it's slightly a delayed effect and it costs a decent amount of mana to do so. And do you really even want to get this commander back out into play after you sacrifice it? Like, what do you, I mean, you can scry 2, cool. You can play your 1/3 commander, scry 2, and maybe lightning bolt something again and gain the Monarch back, but it's a decent amount of mana. I mean, the next time it's going to be like 8 mana in total to do that, right? So you introduce the Monarch and maybe just have a lot of evasive creatures like a commander like this. Like, I think overall this commander is just pretty lackluster. I mean, I might be wrong compared to some of the other commanders, but I think that this is a D tier commander. So we shall see where it really stacks up. Next up, Monstrosity of the Lake, which is, I guess they couldn't name the Watcher in the Water twice, right? The exact same thing. Anyways, a 4/6 Kraken that costs 4 in a blue. When it enters the battlefield, you may pay 5 if you do tap all creatures opponents control. Then put a stun counter each of those creatures. Got island cycling for 2. Obviously, as a commander, island cycling doesn't really help you because you can't discard it from your hand. And, I mean, I guess you could technically play it, bounce it back to your hand, then cycle it away. You're not going to do that. So it's basically useless. 10 mana in total, essentially, to do that. That is pretty awful. I mean, it's nice. It, like, is a very, nice way to essentially take your opponent's creatures out of the, equation for, like, 2 turns. I mean, 1 turn that you do it, and then also, the stun counters will slow them down on their untap as well. Still, overall, yeah, 10 mana to do that. Doesn't really do anything else. A 4/6. Yeah, pretty gross. So I think overall, yeah, Denethor, you've got a buddy in the D tier. You've got a friend with Monstrosity of the Lake. Next up, Golem Obsessed Stalker. This is a really cool card. A 1/1 Halfling with Skulk that costs 1 and a black. Beginning of your end step, each opponent dealt combat damage this game by a creature named Golem Obsessed Stalker. Loses life equal to the amount of life you lost or you gained this turn. This is pretty absurd. This is awesome. This is a low to the ground, tiny little commander that's like, oh, I'm the scariest thing ever, because if I hit you just once and I'm in play at the end of the turn, hey, yeah, you're going to be losing a ton of life, because there are a lot of ways to gain a lot of life very, 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 very quickly in mono black. So this is a commander that, again, is small but mighty, is just gross, is just like, hey, as soon as this comes out, I am making every single deal I can with that Golem player to be like, hey, you don't want to swing at me first. Look at that other player over there. They're going to be so aggressive, and you should take them out first. You should swing over there and, you know, get that point of damage. Because if you don't have any tiny creatures, you're never going to be able to block this. Yeah, Golem Obsessed Stalker, I think, is a very potent commander, one that can go really crazy, really quickly. I think overall, let's throw Golem up in the A tier. And one thing I do want to mention with Golem, too, is like profane transfusion type effects. I love those life swapping effects. Those can be incredibly funny with this, because keep in mind that life swap is life loss and life gain. I mean, life loss for the opponent that you're swapping life with, life gain for you. So, yeah, I mean, if you're at 20, someone's at 40, and then you do that, you take that player out, essentially, because you gain 20, they're down to 20, they lose 20. They're gone. Anyways, Golem is fun. Next up, Lobelia, Defender of the Bag, and a 2/2 Halfling Citizen for 2 and a black. Enters the battlefield like a top card of each opponent's library in exile. Those cards face down. Tap, sacrifice an artifact, choose one. Till end of turn, you may play a card, exile Lobelia without paying its mana cost. Tap, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. I mean, it's interesting. There is a decent amount of card advantage generation with this. Again, being able to get basically 3 cards on an ETB that are kind of stored up for you. You do need to sacrifice artifacts to actually utilize them. And you can only utilize, I mean, unless you're going to untap, which there aren't too many untap effects in mono black, you can only utilize once each turn. When it comes to using and abusing this ETB, there are ways to do that in mono black, mostly feign death type effects, like bring a creature back from when it's dying, or, you know, reanimating effects, that kind of stuff. So you can use and abuse that ETB a little bit. I mean, outside of like a Conjurer's Closet, though, there aren't too many blink effects. So yeah, overall, an interesting commander, one that can generate you some value, one that can drain your opponents if you really want to. It's not the worst commander that we've seen so far. It's definitely nowhere near the best, though. I'm going to throw you up in the C tier for now. Moving on. Sheila, other Sheila, because there's another one that's incredibly popular. This one, I think, will be a little, you know, I mean, not nearly as popular, but still pretty fun. 3/3 Spider Demon for 3 and a black. Whenever a non-token creature opponent controls dies, exile it. Pay 2 and a black. Put a creature, our card, exile with Sheila into its owner's graveyard. Put 2 counters on Sheila. Draw a card. X 1 black. Put our creature card with mana value X. Exile with Sheila on the battlefield tapped under control. Yeah, there's a lot going on here. Basically, now this doesn't unfortunately get rid of your opponent's like death triggers on their creatures, because when it dies, exile. It doesn't say exile it instead. That being said, it does really hamper, well, reanimation style decks, like probably self-mill decks that just want to like fill their graveyard with things. That is great, because you're just denying them of those creatures going into their graveyard. Actually, well, they go to the graveyard, then they leave. And then you also are storing up these creatures, and you can utilize them. Well, you can just get them back in the opponent's graveyard if you want. There are ways to actually steal them from graveyards too. Then you can draw cards, get counters on this, but more likely you're really going to utilize that second ability to just steal your opponent's best creatures. So yeah, if you can generate a good amount of mana, you can steal your opponent's best creatures. This one is interesting. I will say that I think that with certain builds, this can be very powerful. Again, just if you can generate a ton of mana and just take out your opponent's creatures, yeah, you can get their best ones and you can take them out with that. So I think overall, you're probably a middle of the road commander in the B tier. Moving on, we got Galadriel, Elven Queen, a 4/5 elf noble for 4 mana in Simic. Will the Council. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if an elf enters the battlefield under control this turn, starting with you, each player votes for Dominion or Guidance. If Dominion gets more votes, they ring Tempt you. Then you get a counter on your Ring Bearer. Guidance gets more votes, or the vote is tied. Draw a card. So, yeah, this is interesting. It's definitely interesting. I like these kind of like voting commanders. This one, you will need some politicking. This one's just going to basically be elf tribal, which is already a pretty powerful thing. You've got access to, you know, blue, which doesn't really give you that many elves, but it gives you good elf, you know, synergies, I guess I should say, like a Kindred Discovery. Like those kind of cards can be pretty crazy with this. So elf tribal with a slight benefit with the voting. I mean, drawing a card, not bad. You can really take advantage of that with like, you know, thought reflection, those kinds of things as well. And of course, there's ways to get more and more counters on, you know, something when it's given. And there are ways to double up this trigger as well. The ring tempting you, yeah, that's nice. I mean, that's a nice thing. I think overall, it's not terrible. It's not great. Again, it is Elf Tribal, so at the very least, I mean, you've got access to a ton of great cards with that. Let's throw you up in the B tier. Moving on. We've got Gimli of the Glittering Caves. Look at all the shiny things, Gimli! A 1/1 Dwarf Warrior for 2 and a red, double strike. Whenever another legendary creature enters the battlefield under your control, you get a counter on Gimli. Whenever Gimli does counter to a player, create a treasure token. So, I mean, pretty interesting. Again, double strike means that it's going to hit twice as hard, obviously. And on top of that, obviously, hey, when you're hitting an opponent, you get to actually make 2 treasure tokens because you're going to be hitting them twice. So, yeah, Gimli can very quickly become a one-shot KO once you get things going. Yeah, you can go Legendary Tribal with this. Absolutely, you can. You can go to straight up Voltron. You can just do like Black Blade Reforged on this. You know, a lot of other pump effects. It's already got double strike. So, yeah, get in there. Give it trample, get through on your opponents, take them out, and yeah, make a good amount of treasures throughout the game with it. Yeah, Legendary Tribal, mono red, double striking, giving you some treasures as well. Yeah, overall, it's pretty interesting. I think, oh gosh, is this the B tier going to be flooded? Is this the episode where the B tier gets flooded? Because last episode, the C might have gotten flooded, so we're going with a B tier commander. Again, it can hit pretty hard, pretty quickly. Again, Legendary Tribal can be pretty effective, and yeah. Getting a lot of treasures out of this. Again, 2 treasures for each time you hit. That can be fantastic. Next up, Arwen, Weaver of Hope. This one can be pretty disgusting. A 2/1 Elf Noble for 3 mana in green. Each other creature you control enters battle with a number of additional counters on it equal to Arwen's toughness. Okay, so this is kind of like that Simic. Oh gosh, I can never remember the name. It's like a Simic Elf mutant that's like, hey, when you come into play, you get, you know, counters based on my power. It's kind of like the opposite of that with toughness, but yeah. I'm glad this one was limited to mono green because it's already a very, very, very powerful effect. I mean, if you were in, probably like if you were in Golgari, my goodness, the amount of crazy things you could do because, yeah, you can really take advantage of, well, Persist. First of all, Persist, again, is basically when a creature dies, if it didn't have a -1/+1 counter on it, it comes back with a -1/+1 counter on it. But Arwen says, hey, here's also a ++1 counter. And yes, I mean, I know this has happened in the comments a couple of times. Yes, these now cancel each other. The counters cancel each other. -1/+1 counters, ++1 counters cancel each other. That rule has changed. I know, when I was playing in my childhood, that was not the rule. Now it is. So basically, yeah, infinite persist if you got a sacrifice outlet. Also, just, hey, even if you're not trying to go infinite with this, just get more power. I mean, not power. Get more toughness to this commander. Put, you know, equipment on this commander. Black Blade Reforged, that one that gives +0/+6 scale worm armor, or whatever it is. Just give this commander an absurd amount of toughness, and all of a sudden, when your creatures come into play, they are massive, bigger than your commander. So, yeah, this one's got a ton of potential. You can get a lot of powerful creatures out quite quickly, and you can make them incredibly large. Also utilizing great sacrifice outlets like Greater Good. Yeah, pretty absurd. Let's go with A tier. Yeah, I know it's a very powerful commander. I know some of these up there have been very powerful. There is a reason that nothing has hit the S tier quite yet. Moving on. Haldir, Lorien, Lieutenant, a 0/0 elf soldier for X and a green. Enters the battlefield, X counters on it, vigilance, pay 5 and a green. Until end turn, other elves you control gain vigilance. Get +1/+1 for each counter on Haldir. Yeah, that's quite powerful. So essentially, this is a commander that's like a massive anthem for all of your elves, kind of. Like you can just wait until you got a ton of mana for this, and then say just drop a giant commander out into play. Again, if you're going Elf Tribal, you probably have a lot of elves, obviously, that can tap for a good amount of mana. I mean, just the low-to-the-ground ones, like Land of Elves, can tap for 1. There's other ones, like Wirewood Channeler, can tap for an absurd amount of mana. Yeah, just tap, get all of that mana into this, make this like a 15-power creature, essentially. And again, keep in mind, you have other ways to get counters on this as well. Obviously, there's other ways to double up counters, like Doubling Season, that kind of thing, too. And then as soon as you are ready, just, well, you probably want to give your elves trample in some way. But, yeah. Pay mana into that. And again, it's not just like a tap effect. This is, hey, pay 6 mana, my elves get vigilance. Also, this has vigilance, and they all get plus, again, in that example, +15/+15 or whatever it is. And all of a sudden, your giant army is going to be unstoppable. And again, you can actually pay more mana into that. Again, if you've got like 10 elves in play, sure, type your channeler for 10, dump 2 extra mana into that, and you activate this twice. So your other elves are even more massive. Yeah, overall, I think this is quite powerful. Again, elves have a ton of great options. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to throw it up in the A tier. Moving on. We've got Soren, Lord of the Rings, a 9/9 avatar that costs 8 mana in total in Grixis. When you cast this spell, amass Orcs 5, mill 5 cards, turn a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, trample. Whenever a commander an opponent controls dies, the ring tempts you. Okay, this is a lot of mana. You get a lot out of it, but it is a lot of mana. Amassing, I don't really, I mean, I've given my opinion on amassing before. It's not bad, it's just not good. Because again, when it comes to amassing, you're making one big creature token, essentially, and I would rather go wide. And if it said, hey, make 5 orcs that are 1/1s, that'd be so much better. But instead, it's like, no, make a single token that's large. And then if you mass again, keep adding to that token. Yeah, I don't necessarily like that mechanic very much. And also, yeah, sure, you make a 5/5 with this, that if it's bounced, it's gone. Mill 5 cards, sure, that's nice. So it gives you access to more creatures in your graveyard. You obviously have ways to tutor creatures into your graveyard as well, since you're in black. 9/9 trample. Yeah, also that ring tempting you is nice when opponents' creatures die, your opponent's commanders die. That's nice. That being said, overall, this is an 8 mana commander that only really gives you so much. 8 mana is a ton. It is a 9/9. Oh, gosh. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's got some good potential. 8 mana is a lot. I mean, you do get a reanimation effect, but there's other creatures out there that do that reanimation for a lot cheaper. I mean, again, like B- is probably where it's at, but we're gonna go with the B tier. I'm sorry, Soren. Your massive mana cost, and I think amass just puts a bad taste in my mouth. I mean, it's just nice. It's nice that you get a 5/5 with it, but still. All right, moving on. Legolas, green leaf, a 2/2 elf archer with reach that costs 2 and a green. Can't be blocked by creatures of power 2 or less. That's nice, so you can't be chump blocked essentially by tiny tokens for the most part. Whenever another legendary creature in his battlefield under your control, you get a counter on Legolas. Whenever Legolas deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Meh. I mean, overall, meh. Like, no offense, but Gimli is better. I mean, Double Strike is definitely better than Reach. Sure, can't be blocked by tiny creatures, but does that really matter all that much? It matters a little bit, obviously. I mean, if you give Trample, that's nice. You can take out big creatures if you know they're going to have to block. And just getting one card off that combat damage is nice. There are some ways to give Double Strike to, really take more advantage of that, but obviously Gimli just has Double Strike, so I'm sorry, Legolas, you fall short of Gimli in this one, and because of that, well, you are going to be joining some others in the C tier. So, sorry, Legolas. Moving on. The Balrog of Moria. An 8/8 for 8 mana in total in Rakdos. Trample haste. When it dies, you may exile it. When you do, for each opponent, exile up to 1 target creature that player controls. 2 would be absurd. Cycling for 3 in a red. When you cycle it, create 2 tokens. Again, kind of like the island cycling I talked about earlier. Unfortunately, this is a no-go in Commander because you can't just cycle from your command zone. If you could, that would be incredible and pretty crazy. Just have a repeat cycle that makes treasures out of your command zone. Unfortunately, that's not the case, so let's just ignore all of that. And essentially, we've got an 8/8 with Trample and Haste. When it dies, you take out a creature opponent controls. I mean, that's a lot. That is a lot. I mean, Trample Haste is nice. You can swing right away. Yeah. I mean, again, like, exiling, it's not a big deal, because, like, you just then move in your command zone for that. And, yeah, you get to take out 1 creature each player controls for that. 8 mana is, I mean, that's a death trigger. I mean, yeah, you can take advantage of it with some Feign Death type effects. Overall, I think you are, kind of overcosted for what you do. Not overcosted, but, yeah, without that cycling, that is just a big impact on you. So, I think we're actually going to throw you up in the C tier. Sorry, Balrog. Don't hate me. Moving on. Bilbo Birthday Celebrant. I love this commander. A 2/3 Halfling Rogue in Abzan that says if you gain life, you gain that much life plus 1 instead. So for every instance of life gain, it's not going to help with like the big ones. I mean, you still like, if I gain 15 life with something, I now just gain 16. But if you're having different instances of life gain, like you say, like, Sunscorch Regent, you gain 1 life every single time an opponent casts a spell. Great, now it's 2 instead of 1. So it helps with every single instance, which is going to be great. Then by paying 5 mana, tapping, exiling Bilbo, search life for any number of creature cards, put them on the battlefield, then shuffle. Activate only if you've got 111 or more life. That's a lot of life to get to, but of course, there are plenty of ways to really make that go quickly. I mean, there's a couple ways to actually double up your life totals, so you can do that, like Revival Revenge, I think is one, essentially. There's also an instant speed one as well. Yeah, and also just all the different life gain effects. Like a Congregate can do a lot for you, just gaining a massive amount of life at once. Yeah, when you do that, of course, if you build your deck properly, or just even if you just have a bunch of just miscellaneous things in there that just happen to work well, like if you just have Gary in your deck, which you probably should, Great Merchant from Asphodel, you probably just win when you hit that if it's in your library, because it's going to come down, your devotion's probably going to be big enough to drain everyone out. So yeah, This is essentially a commander that's like, yeah, I give you a good amount of benefits throughout the game if I'm in play, and that activation can just be game ending. It's a low to the ground commander that, yeah, you don't even have to actually play until you're actually winning. If you're like, okay, yeah, I've got like 200 life, it's probably good to try to play this now. So play it, you know, give it haste, you know, with a Swiftfoot Boots or a Lightning Greaves or whatnot, activate right away. You are in green, you've got plenty of ways to ramp, plenty of ways to activate this right away, and then just win from there. So yeah, Bilbo, you're kind of like a win condition on your own. Gonna throw you up in the A tier. You got access to some amazing things in Abzan. Moving on, Boromir, Gondor's Hope. Look at those chops. Just look at that. Look at those chops on Boromir. Facial hair. Sorry, Boromir. Anyways, a 3/4 human warrior for 4 mana in total. Enters the battlefield or attacks. Look at the top 6 cards of your library and reveal a human or artifact card from among them in your hand. Put the rest of the bottom of your library in a random order. Okay. Yeah, so like either human or artifact tribal on an attack trigger. I mean, you gain like 1 card off the top on an ETB or an attack. ETB is probably what you want to use and use more often because you are in 2 colors that will allow you to blink this commander quite a bit. And attacking is probably not your best option because Boromir, I mean, has 4 toughness and probably can't survive the swing. So sorry, Boromir, but you and your chops, you're interesting. Like, you could go human tribal, sure. I mean, artifact might be the more powerful version of this because artifacts can be very broken. You do some crazy things. Yeah, I mean, overall, not bad. I mean, I can definitely see some things. You could definitely go infinite in some ways as well, with some ways to blink this again and again and again. Yeah, overall, Boromir, I think, yeah, we're just going to throw you in the C tier. You're not the worst. You're not the best. Yeah, I think the C tier is where you belong. Moving on. Aragorn, King of Gondor, a 4/4 human noble with vigilance and lifelink that is in Jeskai for 4 mana. When it enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. When it attacks up to 1 target creature, can't block this turn. If you're the Monarch, creatures can't block this turn. So yeah, Aragorn is a pretty good commander. I love introducing the Monarch. I absolutely love the Monarch mechanic. It encourages attacking, which definitely can be, you know, not the case for many commander games where players are just kind of sitting back and turtling. I'm definitely guilty of that as well. But this is like, no, we're going to have card advantage if you have the Monarch. So yeah, players going to be incentivized to go do that. That being said, you can pretty much guarantee that you're going to get the Monarch back because, again, you are in colors that allow you to blink this commander very easily and very effectively. Do that before your turn. Get Monarch back. Swing with your team because your team is unblockable. Pretty gross. So, yeah, this commander can give you a lot of card advantage. It can also ensure that you are getting through with your army. And there are plenty of ways to make a giant army in Jeskai. So, yeah, overall, pretty powerful. I'm going to throw you up in the A tier. Next up, Soren the Shipwright, a 3/4 elf noble for 5 mana total in Simic Vigilance. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, each player secretly votes for a player. Those votes are revealed. Each player draws a card for each vote they receive. Each player received no votes may put a permanent card from their hand on the battlefield. So basically, either draw some cards or show and tell on ETB. That's really cool. I love the design of this commander. That being said, how powerful is it? Again, with these kind of voting commanders, you're very dependent upon your opponents. And with this one, like, you don't get any extra benefits. It's not like they're voting just for like what you're getting, like some other commanders we've seen in the past. This one is no, like, everyone's voting for what each other are getting. So if you're in the lead, they're probably not going to vote for what you want. But there are ways to kind of incentivize them to vote in certain ways. You can obviously wheel and deal. You can politic. You can throw out, like, again, like a thought reflect or something like that. So you're getting more cards drawn if they actually do choose you. And if they don't, you can cheat things into play. That being said, since you're building this deck around this effect, they're probably going to try to, you know, be like, let's just not let this player that builds a deck around this commander cheat giant things into play because they probably have giant things in their hand, like maybe Omniscience and those kinds of things. So overall, again, it depends on the pilot. This is one of those commanders that really depends on how good you are at politicking. And because of that, I mean, you kind of would be, if you've got a good politic player, it's probably a middle-of-the-road commander. But if you don't, yeah, it's probably more likely in the hands of most, including myself, a C tier commander. I am not good at politicking. But is that something that a politicker would say? Maybe. But no, I'm not good at politicking. Anyways, Eddies. We got All Run of the White Council, a 3/3 elf noble for 5 mana total in Simic. Secret Council. When it enters the battlefield, each player secretly votes for fellowship or aid. Then those votes are revealed for each fellowship vote. The voter chooses a creature they control. You gain control of each creature chosen this way, and they gain. This creature can attack its owner. Then for each aid vote, put a +1 counter on each creature you control. That's interesting. It's definitely an interesting commander where you are, again, getting a value out of that ETB. You are getting value no matter what. Again, unlike the previous one I just talked about, this is more so just voting for you. What is going to happen for you? Now, the problem with this is hey, if someone votes for fellowship and they don't have any creatures, you're not getting anything out of that. So that is going to happen, I think. I mean, again, if they don't have any creatures, they're behind, or, you know, they have a Spellslinger deck, so they're already at a disadvantage. That being said, you're not getting any extra advantage with this. Getting counters on your creatures is nice. Again, you can get an army pretty quickly with this. You are in blue, so there are ways to blink this, and obviously there's ways to go wide and really take advantage of those counters as well. Yeah, there's some interesting things that you can do with this. Again, if an opponent has a creature that they really don't want to give you, though, they won't. They'll just let you get more counters on your creatures, which, yeah, I mean, could be very impactful and very deadly. And if they give you a creature, again, you can't attack them with that creature, but still, that can still be advantageous for you. Yeah, overall, it's definitely interesting. It is one that I think has some potential, but I think, again, you're kind of dependent on politicking a little bit and getting exactly what you want. So let's go with a B tier. Again, it's got some powerful potential, but again, limited to the politicking potential of the player. Moving on, Airmir, King of Rohan, a 2/2 human noble for 5 mana total, and Boros double strike. Enters the battlefield, a +1 counter on it for each other human you control. Okay. Enters the battlefield, target player becomes the monarch. When Airmir deals damage equal to its power to any target. Okay, so this does a lot. This basically is like, you know what? Do you have, let's math really quick. Do you have like maybe 9 humans in play? Because if you do, I'm a 1-shot KO. Even just having a couple of humans in play turns into a 2-shot KO. I mean, it's already almost a 1-shot. No, it's almost a 3-shot KO. Just need a couple of counters. You know, with that double strike ETB, all you need to do, again, is have a certain amount of humans in play. If you got 9 other humans in play, which, again, if you're doing human tribal, go wide. You've got ways to make human tokens. Great. Do that, get this in play, and then all of a sudden, again, this has 9 counters on it. It's got 11 power. It's double striking, hitting an opponent for, again, what, 22 commander damage to take them out? So this can be a 1-shot KO quite easily. On top of that, again, ETBs, you become the monarch. Probably most likely you're going to choose yourself to become the monarch. And also, deal damage equal to power to any target. That does a lot of work for you. This, again, can be a 1-shot KO commander. It can be one that can take things out. Again, you are in white, so there are plenty of ways to really, really blink this and take advantage of that ETB to maybe reset its counters if you've got more humans in play now, and also to ping things. And, of course, you also have, like, Warstorm Surge. You've got ways to take advantage of it coming into play. You've got ways to copy it temporarily with red as well. To get a copy of it, it, yes, does go away, but you can actually just ping something with that, too. Overall, this does a lot. Yeah, I think I'm going to throw you up, actually, in the A tier to join all your friends up there. Moving on. We've got Arrestor of the Council, a 2/4 elf noble for 3 mana in total in Simic. Whenever players finish voting, each opponent who voted for a choice you voted for creates a treasure token. Use square X for X the number of opponents who voted for a choice you didn't vote for. Draw a card. Now, I will say, I like the design of this commander. I think it's a very interesting commander. I think it's one that does have potential, but I will say has potential probably in the future. If you look up really how many voting, effects there are and how many effective voting effects there are, in Simic, there really aren't that many. This is more like a support commander for just an overall voting strategy. Yeah, it's not really like an actual command. I mean, it is. You can definitely build a voting deck around this. I'm not going to say you can't. And there are ways to recur things so you can get those. But again, there's only so many voting cards out there. So yeah, at this point, I'm sorry, Arrestor, you are a D tier commander. Moving on. Faramir, Steward of Gondor, a 2/2 human noble for 3 mana. Whenever a legendary creature with mana value 4 or greater enters the battlefield under control, you become the monarch. Behavior ends if you're the monarch, you get 2 1/1 white human creature tokens. Basically, hey, let's do legendary tribal with 4 or greater, for your legendaries, and yeah, get a lot of advantage off of that monarch. Again, there are ways to take advantage of it even further, like Thought Reflection, and of course, like Annoying Procession to get even more of those humans. Yeah, this commander, again, just a good middle-of-the-road commander, in my opinion, one that does a good amount for you. It doesn't, it doesn't outpace some of the other more powerful commanders, but it is one that can keep pace, just in general. I think it's a very interesting commander, and I am going to throw up in the B tier. Again, just a good amount of value coming out of this one. Next up. All right, we finally got here. The reason I've been hesitant to put anything in the S tier is because Farmer Cotton is absurd. A 1/1 Halfling Peasant for X green white. Enters the battlefield, create X 1/1 white Halfling creature tokens and X food tokens. Yeah, I did not expect the second that I saw Farmer Cotton for it to be anything. Again, I just saw its name and I was like, huh, okay, Farmer Cotton. Oh, it's a 1/1 for 2 and X. Okay, well, what in the world could it do? My goodness, this is absurd. This is incredibly powerful, and you should not underestimate it. Farmer Cotton, I'm just going to throw up right now. I'm going to keep describing it, though. Farmer Cotton is most definitely an S tier commander, and I think it's going to be pretty hard to argue against that if built in the way that would be, S tier for it, I should say. So with it being S tier, basically, yeah, you're making twice as many tokens as you're putting into X, which is already a very powerful thing. Yeah, sure, they're just 1/1s, and yeah, sure, it's just food. But of course, you've got plenty of ways to take advantage of that, especially in these colors. You're in 2 colors that have ways to double up tokens. You've got, well, Annoying Procession in white, as well as, like, Mondrak, I think that's the Phyrexian, that also doubles up tokens. You've got Doubling Season, Parallel Lives, Primal Vigor, all those ones, or what, I think it's Primal Vigor, I don't know. All those ones, you've got, like, 6 different ways to double up tokens, essentially, right? And then also, like, ETB, you can double up on the ETB as well. You got Panharmonicon as well. Elish Norn, too, can also double up. So you got all those ways to double things up. Then you also have fantastic sacrifice outlets, too. Ashnod's Altar, Phyrexian Altar, you've got Quarklane Ironworks, you've got ways to take advantage of making all those tokens to then sacrifice those tokens for a ton of mana, and then you've got ways to, well, bring this back to your hand, Temur Sabertooth, etc. Bounce it back to your hand, recast it for more. Bounce it back to your hand, recast it for more. Basically making infinite tokens, making infinite food, making infinite mana. Yeah, Farmer Cotton is incredible. Farmer Cotton is broken in the right build. Farmer Cotton is going to be hard for any kind of an argument to happen, at least in my opinion, for any other commander in these precons to be considered at the level of Farmer Cotton. Though, there are some that will say that, yeah, I mean, are close. And also, if you're in a playgroup that does not utilize combos, then sure. But coming from, and I guess what I should say, coming from my playgroup perspective, basically, the combos are okay as long as it's not like turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, turn 4. It's not just like comboing right away just to win. It is, hey, yeah, you took a decent amount of pieces to actually get this set up and actually win. Yeah, Farmer Cotton can just go off really quickly. Even if you're not comboing, again, with all those token doublers, you can do absurd things. You got ways to pump it. You got anthems to, to pump your halflings. You've got ways to take advantage of that life gain with the food. You got ways to sacrifice that food for value. Yeah, Farmer Cotton does a ton. In my opinion, an S tier commander that is going to be hard to compete against. Next up, Grima, Sauron's Footman, a 1/4 human advisor that can't be blocked for 4 mana in Dimir. Deals combat damage to a player. That player exiles cards to the top of their library to the exiled instant sorcery card. You may cast the card without paying its mana cost. That player puts the exiled cards that weren't cast away on the bottom of the library in a random order. Kind of like Cascade for an opponent, for instance, in sorceries. That's interesting. I mean, it can give you a good amount of value throughout the game. You are dependent on hitting something they actually want to hit. If you just hit like a counter spell at the top of the library, that's not going to be good for you. But if you hit like something massive like, hey, expropriate, yeah, that's going to be game ending. Overall, again, it's nice. It has potential. It is heavily dependent on your opponents. It also costs 4 mana, which is kind of like middling, which is probably expected to be what it does. If you give it double strike, sure, you can really take advantage of it even more. If you got ways to maybe copy spells, that's also great too. I think overall it's not bad. It's not. I don't think it's even up to the middle tier though. I think I'm gonna throw you up in the C tier. Moving on, Gandalf Westward Voyager. A 5/5 Avatar Wizard, 4/5 in Simic. Whenever you cast a spell of mana value 5 or greater, each opponent reveals the top of their library. And those cards shares a card type with that spell. Copy that spell, choose targets to the copy. And each opponent draws a card. Otherwise, you draw a card. This, again, is one that says, sure, I'll benefit my opponents slightly, but I'm definitely getting a bigger benefit. And if I don't, give them a benefit, if I don't get the benefit of cards off the top of their library, I get a benefit with drawing a card. Basically, big mana tribal, essentially, when utilizing things like, Lantern of Insight to know what the top of your opponent's libraries is, utilizing cards that maybe are like an artifact creature or an enchantment creature, things that are multiple, just so that you can, more often hit things off the top, getting a lot of things for free, copying spells, yeah, like Twinning Staff, that kind of stuff, can do crazy things with this as well. You're in Simic, you can have some powerful things. I think overall, Gandalf, just looking at your competition in each of these tiers, I think, oh gosh, I mean, again, you're probably like a B+, A- if I had to actually say. Let's throw you up in the A tier. I think B+, A- is probably where I put you. Moving on, Lord of the Nazghoul. Okay, let's step things up a little bit. A 4/3 Wraith Noble with flying that costs 5 mana in Dimir. Wraiths, you control protection from Ring Bearers. Whenever you cast in Source Spell, you get a 3/3 Black Wraith creature token with Menace. Then if you control 9 or more, they become 9/9s. All your Wraiths, including this, obviously. Yeah. This is like Talrend to another level, essentially. I mean, yeah, they're not, they are evasive with that Menace. Nice. They are not like fully evasive, not fully evasive. Flying isn't fully evasive, but flying, I would say, will get you through more often than Menace will. That being said, there are definitely some benefits to Menace where your opponents have to lose more creatures when they are blocking. Yeah, 5 mana is a decent amount for a commander, but also you're getting a lot of value out of this. Again, Spellslinger, taking advantage of Flashback, taking advantage of Rebound, taking advantage of Jumpstart cards you can cast multiple times. Yeah, overall, this is a pretty heavy hitting commander. Again, this one, I think, again, is probably more like an A+ commander if I had to really say it, because this commander is very, very good. In most instances, in most sets, it would actually be an S tier commander, I would say. But in comparison to Farmer Cotton, I don't think it's up there, which is just, again, kind of funny to say. Like, the Lord of the Nazghoul loses to this halfling farmer guy. Cool. Magic is weird. Anyways, Lord of the Nazghoul, you are a very strong commander, and one that, again, definitely considered right then and there for you to be an S tier commander, but I think you just fell slightly short. Moving on. Pippin, Warden of Isengard, Golgari for 2 mana, 2/2 Halfling Advisor, partners with Mary, of course. Pay 1 tap, create a food token. Cool. Tap, sacrifice 4 foods. Other creature you control get +3/+3 and gain haste spell turn, activate as a sorcery. Alright, so kind of like an overrun effect, but instead of it being trample, it is haste. Sacrificing 4 foods. That's a decent amount of foods, but of course there's other ways to create foods outside of just Pippin, paying 1 and tapping. Next up, Mary, Warden of Isengard, 1/4 Halfling Advisor for 3 mana in Selesnya, so you are an Abzan overall. Whenever one of our artifacts sent to battlefield under control, you get a 1/1 white soldier creature token with lifelink. Its ability triggers only once each turn. That limits it quite a bit. Only triggering once each turn is a big, big downside to this. If that did not, occur, you could do a lot of crazy things with this. Yeah. Overall, because of that limitation, it really hampers the commander. Yeah, in combination, you can do some pretty nice things again. Make an army while also, utilizing your foods at some point to pump your army. Overall, oh gosh, I mean, I think that you are, again, kind of like one of those like B+ kind of commander, or not B+, sorry, C+ commanders, like B-, but if I have to lean one way or the other, I think I'm actually going to the C tier with you. You're going to join the other partner combination down there. Moving on. Let's go to Radagast, Wizard of Wilds, a 3/5 Avatar Wizard for 4 mana in Simic with Ward 1. Beasts and birds you control have Ward 1, so some nice protection there. Whenever you cast a spell with mana value 5 or greater, choose 1, you make a 3/3 beast, you make a 2/2 bird. Yeah, I mean, again, that's not bad. I mean, you can go beast tribal, you can go bird tribal if you really want to, or you can just go, hey, mana value 5 or greater tribal, kind of like Gandalf does. You're getting some value out of it. You're not getting anywhere near as much value as Gandalf is going to be giving. I mean, it's not bad. Again, it's nice. A little bit of protection there. And also, yeah, you can create an army. The 3/3s for, casting a spell is nice, or a 2/2 flyer. Also nice. So overall, yeah, not the worst, not the best. I think you are a middle-of-the-road Commander Radagast. So congratulations on making it to the B tier. Next up, Treebeard Gracious Host. Oh, Treebeard. Treebeard. I think I said bird because birds in my head after Radagast. Anyways, a 0/5 tree folk with trample and ward 2 for 4 mana in Selesnya enters the battlefield to get 2 food tokens. Nice. Whenever you gain life, get that many counters on target halfling or tree folk. Absurd. So essentially, this is a commander that can be a one-shot KO quite easily. Now, yes, you can go halfling tribal or tree folk tribal or a combination of both. I personally wouldn't. I would just utilize halflings and tree folk that are good with this. I mean, like Prosperous Innkeeper is great. I think Scurry Oak, is that the name of the other one? There's actually combos that you can do with that too. But yeah, utilizing halflings and tree folk that work with this, but Treebeard is going to be your heavy hitter that is going to take your opponents out because, again, commander damage is obviously a thing, so you got to get to 21 instead of 40, essentially. And also, this already comes with trample and ward 2, so it's protected slightly, and trample can get the damage through. This can be a commander that you just cast Congregate and you take an opponent out, essentially. You're like, oh, okay, how many creatures in the battlefield? Cool, all right, I'll gain 40 life, I'll swing, and you're gone. So yeah, this is a commander that I think has a lot of potential. It's not quite to the S tier. Again, Farmer Cotton is the thing. It's definitely, again, like an A, kind of like an A+ commander. I think it's up there with Lord of the Nazghoul as well. So yeah, Treebeard can do some really gross things. There are a lot of ways to gain a lot of life very, very, very quickly. On top of this, just giving you food tokens, that's nice. I mean, just 6 power is not bad to start off with. But yeah, again, Congregate, just out of nowhere. Cool, you're gone, opponent. Moving on. Saruman the White Hand, 2/5 Avatar Wizard for 4 mana in total in Grixis. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, amass Orcs X for X that spell's mana value. Goblins and Orcs you control have ward 2. Again, I've given you my opinion on amass and how I don't like it that much because, again, going tall is terrible compared to going wide. And sure, you can have one giant amassed Orc army. Woo! And it's got ward 2. Woo! Your opponents are going to chump block it with one thing versus if you could go wide with it. Yeah, I mean, I shouldn't complain about it. Again, it's a dead horse. I should just leave it. But hey, goblins and orcs, ward 2. That's nice. I guess you can go goblin tribal. You can definitely go. I mean, like orc tribal too if you're really wanting to. But more so, you're probably just gonna go goblin tribal. You got access to red, which obviously is the biggest goblin color. There's a little bit in black as well. I don't really think there's any in blue. Still, again, Kindred Discovery, that kind of thing as well. You can really take advantage of certain, tribal effects that you get from blue as well. Overall, Not the worst card out there. I mean, not the best. It's got some potential. It's got access to good colors. And yeah, just going straight up Goblin Tribal with this, having Ward 2, that can already just be a really good thing. And sure, you gain some Orc, army when you cast non-creatures. Great. I wouldn't really build around that non-creature aspect as much as I would just build around lots of goblins, lots of great goblin effects. So yeah, let's throw you up in the B tier. And finally, we are on to the last commander with Baragon of the Guard, a 3/3 human soldier for 3 and a white. Whenever another human enters the battlefield under control, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain vigilance on a turn. There are quite a few ways to make a lot of humans. That being said, the benefit is nice. I mean, being able to pump your army and give them vigilance, you can swing right away, or swing, and keep them on defense. They don't have haste, obviously, with the new ones that you make. That being said, yeah, there are very few ways, I guess I should say, in mono white to actually grant haste. That Drawbridge, Crashing Drawbridge, Chroma's Memorial. Chroma's, I think? Yeah, anyways. There are some ways to grant haste, but because it doesn't give haste, if it just gave haste instead of vigilance, that might be better. So you can just swing right away with a giant army. It can be a decent pump effect, though. Overall, again, there are definitely better commanders in the set. There are definitely worse ones. Mono white human tribal, though, I think you're going to end up in the C tier. So, yeah, overall, I think this is where I'm going to end up with things. I don't think I'm going to move things around too much or anything at all. I think I'm pretty happy with the way things shook out. Again, I kind of wish there was just like a tier in between Farmer Cotton and the A tier, like an A+ tier. Again, I think Lord of the Nazghoul and Treebeard are definitely, and probably Bilbo, like stick out as ones that would probably be above, a lot of the other A tier commanders, or some of them at least I should say. But they're not quite up again to Farmer Cotton standards because, hey, Farmer Cotton, again, is pretty absurd. And yeah, you can say, hey, well, my group wouldn't allow combos. Sure, but that's okay. I mean, like, you know what? It has the potential to be up there in the S tier. So I can definitely see, if your group does allow combos, it can still do some very powerful things. But yeah, because of that combo potential, because of that absurd combo potential, I think Farmer Cotton is an S tier commander. So yeah, this is how I'm going to end up with things, I believe. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are on all these. Yeah, what did I mess up on? What did I do right? Yeah, let me know in the comments below. And with that, this episode is coming to a close, so let me know what your thoughts are on it in the comments below. And of course, as always, thanks again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.